Hey guys, welcome back to the Preacher Girl podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Arner, and I'm so excited that you're here. I hope you feel encouraged and inspired after listening to this episode. Feel free to go follow me on Instagram at Preacher Girl Podcast and go ahead and like the Preacher Girl Facebook page. Both of those will keep you up to date on the latest episodes and future plans for this podcast. Join the community. We would love to have you. Also, feel free to subscribe so that you don't miss out whenever an episode is released, and rate this podcast so that our community can keep growing together. Thanks again and enjoy this show. Today, I am very excited to have Tim McGuire on the show today. Tim has a very powerful testimony and story to share, and he's just an all-around good guy. And so, Tim, I'm just so excited to have you here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Rachel. It's good to be here. Good to hear your voice, and it's been a while.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you said yes. So, thank you for being here.
No problem, no problem. I'm excited.
Yeah. So the first question I have for you, just so everyone can kind of get to know who you are a little better, just tell us about who you are, where you're from, what you do, anything, school, whatever you want to share.
Sure. Yeah. So, I was born in Framingham, Massachusetts, back in 1993. So, I'm getting up there, creeping closer and closer to 30. It's kind of scary. um, but yeah. So then we moved down to Florida, where my grandmother lived down there for till I was about 6 years old, and then moved up to Maine. Maine is basically where I grew up. I went to school at Little Adventist school called Pine Tree Academy, and then we moved down to Florida. I think I must have been like 2022. And so, yeah, moved around a lot through, up and down the East Coast, kind of. It's been like the, the northern tip of the East Coast and the southern tip. Um, but yeah, I went to school, to college my first year at Washington Adventist University in Tacoma Park, Maryland. I just went there for a year. My goal was to play basketball. That's all I really thought about. And at the time, they played NCAA Division II, and so that was a big thing to me. Try to make the team, and I practiced with them for a while. But then it just kind of became, I don't know. It just became too much for me, really. And so that ended, and I decided to transfer to Andrews University, and where we met, Berrien Springs, Michigan. For a while there, basketball is like a big thing to me. So if I go back to that, then then sorry, but you know, I played a couple years at Andrews. It was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
And I kind of balanced that in between my studies. When I first went there, well, I guess my freshman year, I studied physical education. Trying to learn how to be a coach and teacher, and I switched to physical pre-PT at Andrews.
Wow,
Was
wow.
really overwhelmed by the program. I
Mm.
probably did the worst I've ever done in school.
Oh
Um,
man, I hear it's a tough
yeah,
program. I hear it's a really tough
it is.
program.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you know, kudos to the people that can get through it. I mean, it's crazy. I guess to me
Yeah.
at that point, it was just really hard to find my passion. So
Mm.
I switched to journalism for a while. I wanted to be like an
Mm.
undercover journalist, expose all the bad stuff that was going in the world. And then I switched to communications. I had a really good professor, Dr. Delise Stain. She was from South Africa, and she really coached me up, kind of got a hold of me and shook me around a little bit, and was like, focused my attention. One big thing that happened in that year was, or in that period of time that I was in the communications program, I went to Tanzania on a study tour,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, it was just an amazing experience. It was only for just a couple weeks, but it was the first time really, uh, for me, going outside the continent. And
Mhm.
it was a dream of mine to always go there. Mostly
Mm.
because as a kid I was captivated by all the wildlife and everything. But the culture is really what grabbed a hold of me, and just didn't let me go. Just how welcoming and warm the people were, and how there was, that they've just done so much with so little, and it was just very, very inspiring experience to me. So that's what led me to kind of the next step. One, because I wanted to play, I had one more year left to play basketball. So I was like looking for an excuse to play that year again. I know,
Mm.
crazy. But I was really, I really kind of got captivated by the Community and International Development Program talk by Dr. Joel Luc Ravaharamis, and he's from Madagascar, and he ran a study tour every year to the country, which is off the east coast of Africa. So he taught us a lot about international policy, humanitarian rights, sustainable development goals, all these different things that I had never heard of before. Just about how to bring equity and justice to the world, and how we can invest in communities that haven't been invested in yet. So that was a amazing experience to me, and I was able to travel to Madagascar in the summer of 2017. I was there for 3 months, studying along with my professor and the other students that were on the trip. And then I got to spend, a week or two, might have been 2 weeks with my professor, visiting his family in Madagascar and really getting an inside look into the country. And then for about a month and a half, I was able to do my internship with an organization called Blue Ventures, and they take a holistic approach to conservation, and it's community based. So I'll be talking about this maybe a little bit later in the podcast, but there's this real need for connecting local people with resources that and alternatives to take them away from destructive environmental practices, and they really worked with coastal communities to provide alternatives to destroying coral reefs or overfishing or any of these types of things. And they really worked on behalf of those local people, asking the local people what their goals and outcomes, what they wanted to see, and show them research and scientific data that would prove
Mm.
kind of basically what would happen, how their outcomes would be achieved. And so after that, I graduated, finished my degree. Had an amazing time over there. Worked with sea cucumbers. I mean, it's kind of funny. They're sold to Asian markets. So we made different pens, and
Oh,
for the sea
wow.
cucumbers to stay in, and each family basically ran that pen as a business, and made sure that all the that they weren't struck with disease, that predators like crabs weren't getting in there. So it was just a really cool experience, and they're actually sold as an aphrodisiac to Asia.
Oh, wow.
It's yeah, it's a really I don't quite understand it, but there's a lot more income that is able to come into the community. So,
Mm.
instead of fishing for a livelihood, they're just able to fish for sustenance, and it takes a lot of pressure off of that local
Mm.
environment.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, so I learned a lot there, and I came back home to Florida, really inspired and wanting to know kind of what I could do, but not really knowing how to do it. So it kind of stuck in the back of my mind. Worked for a while at it took me a long time to get. I know like a lot of people struggle with this. It took me a long time to kind of lock down a job,
Mm,
and
yeah, yeah.
it took like 10 months or something like that, like, and
Mm,
it was very discouraging because here you are with a master's degree from a very prestigious university, and not able to find a job.
yeah.
um but I was able to find one, and I worked for a year and a half there, until kind of getting laid off later on when there was some, budget cuts going on. So since then, just been actually working on launching my own thing. So motivated by that, but still, I kind of go back and forth with discouragement and whatnot. And like, I'm 27 years old, and sometimes you wonder what you have to show for all the work
Mm,
you've done. So So it's a struggle, but,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
hope
yeah.
that kind of allows you to peer into my into my life.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kinda all over the place.
No, I mean, that's all super interesting. I mean, it sounds like you've traveled the world, like, you had, like, a good experience in college and all those different things, and I'm sure everyone can really resonate in one way or another with everything you shared. And kind of here there were so many different things that you said that stood out to me, and a couple of those are, like, the experience you had here in college with
Mm,
different professors. I think a lot of people can really agree that there are professors in their lives who really impacted them and really, had a part in where they ended up in life. And so I think that's always cool to
mm,
hear. And the fact that, you took advantage of those opportunities to take those study tours and hearing how you went from, all of that to now wanting to start your own thing. That's just really awesome to hear. Hearing you talk about all of that, and like you were saying, trying to get that job. Because right now I'm kind of, I started my master's degree right now at the
mm,
seminary here at Andrews University. So I'm
wonderful.
studying to hopefully be a pastor, and so I'm thinking to myself like, okay, so I didn't get a job, so now I'm, because I was looking around, I was like, where can I work? Where can I work? But for whatever reason, God led me to the seminary, and so I'm just trying to follow His leading. But with that being said, the struggle of finding a job after you graduate, it's so real. And so and so before we move on, I actually don't know if you have any thoughts about that to share with the listeners, because a lot of the listeners are either in college or recently graduated. So do you have any sort of encouragement or advice for those who have just graduated, even in this pandemic, and they're trying to find work, and they're probably feeling really discouraged, and maybe they haven't started their master's degree, or maybe they haven't decided to do that? Do you have sort of like a brief, like, word of encouragement for them in that, discouraging, feeling of like, oh, I can't find a job, but I have this degree? So do you have any
Mm.
encouragement for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's, we're in the midst of something that, is really never, well, at least in our lifetime, right? It's never been
Mm,
seen. So
right,
it's just a really challenging time for us to find work. And
right.
it's one thing for my reflecting on my own personal experience. Kind of one thing that I wish I would have done more is networking. College is an amazing opportunity to network, and professors have worked in the field before, and now they're trying to come and bring in their expertise to invest in the next generation. And so you network with them, you network with fellow students who are going to go and do big things. And so sometimes you might be sacrificing. It is definitely what but you have to also combine that with the who and so it can be a tricky situation. It's hard to it's hard to find a job just searching through Indeed. You
Right,
really need
right,
to. It seems like everybody has like some type of lead, right? I mean, it's and so connecting with people that are within the field of study that you're into, is really critical and really important. So at this point, it's just about reaching out to people, connecting with people, learning new skills, and a lot of times, God just puts people, in place that you wouldn't really expect to be there. And so it's really important just to be warm and welcoming with your spirit, and the vibes you give off to different people when you talk to them, and take advantage of every opportunity you can to talk about your goals and ambitions, because people like to hear about that. And so just to pray about this thing honestly, because it's it seems like the whole world has a different way of dealing with this, and so where does that put us as individuals? How can we contribute our skills that we've learned, and our desire to make a difference? Who's we just need a chance, right? And we just need to really get on our knees and pray every morning, every night before we go to bed, and ask God to lead us. I was able to have a conversation. I actually neglected to mention this in the beginning. I actually recently got married, and so
Wow,
yeah, it was
congratulations,
really.
that's
Thank you,
awesome.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
and she she studied clinical mental health, still, wrapping up her master's degree. But I met somebody down here that was, that, is a psychologist who,
Mm,
has done a lot, very well known in the psychology field, and was able to get them connected. So you just never know. You never know who you're talking to, and it's not like you try to make an impression on people, but you just act naturally, and you're not afraid to just open up and just share with people, who you are, and what you believe in and what your goals are, and you never know who you could meet.
that's true. That is true. That's so exciting. Congratulations. I didn't know you got married. That's really
Thanks, Rachel.
awesome. That's like a big deal. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
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 That's
Yeah, it is, it
awesome.
is. It's a lot a lot going
Yeah.
on, but, just
Right.
trying to, just rely on God, and, just follow His leading in my life.
Yeah. That is really good. I appreciate how you shared, prayer is a big part of, working through that discouragement or, whether you're, looking for a job or whatever it may be, that someone's going through, trying to stay in
Mm,
that prayer with God, that constant communication, even when you don't feel like it, right? Because a lot of times when we feel discouraged and everything, sometimes we don't want to turn to God. We want to try to figure it out on ourselves, like by ourselves, and just like try to, figure out what we're supposed to do. And sometimes we'll leave God out of the picture. And so, kind of hearing you say like to keep praying and to keep in tune with God, I think that's a great reminder. Yeah, so I think that's awesome. And for those who are looking for work right now, I just want to encourage you guys that God does have a plan for you, and He does have that job for you. And also, Tim, I really appreciated how you mentioned God will place people in your life, maybe people you didn't even expect that God would lead into your life, and might be a part of that networking, to lead you to a job or whatever that may
mm.
be. So I really, really think that's awesome that you said that, because God does work in amazing ways and in mysterious ways, and He will make a way for each and every one of us, especially during this difficult time. So yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. So, Tim, the next question, kind of leading into a little bit of your story about earlier this year, you were in a very, very scary car accident. And so many people saw that, we saw on Facebook or wherever. And I think, everyone was really, really worried about you. And so I think everyone's really relieved to see that you're okay and you're doing well. You don't have to share a lot of detail or anything like that, only what you want. But, how are you doing now? How did God worked through that situation for you? Yeah, just share a little bit about your story with that.
Sure, yeah. So, obviously a very very scary, unexpected situation. You never really know, you know, you really just never even know. I was, you know, getting ready to, kinda actually, let me backtrack. So I was up in Michigan working with my professor to launch my, kinda taking my idea, my future, business, or and kind of making that a reality. So it was very productive time up there. And as the coronavirus hit, my girlfriend and I decided that we'd, girlfriend at the time, wife now, decided that we'd, kind of ride it out with our families. And so we were gonna, we got packed up her Toyota Prius, and and we're making a way down to Louisiana where her parents lived, and then I was gonna fly back to Florida where I live now. So it was gonna be a long drive. We were excited about it, and then, I really don't remember anything. I barely remember getting into the car, but we were struck by a larger vehicle, and absolutely, obliterated the car.
Mm, mm,
It
wow.
struck me on my side of the car, and, I just like I said, there's only a few things I really recall. One is, very vaguely, I remember somebody like screaming my name, like Tim, 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 and it could have been at that point, or it could have been maybe when I was in the hospital. I don't know, but I do remember that, and and that, I remember just wanting to kind of go out, just like I was done, just wanting to like leave me alone kind of thing, let me sleep, um, and but somehow I guess I came to then. I mean, I don't really remember what happened after that. I do remember somebody picking me up, and I remember being in a lot of pain and felt like kind of going on to some type of stretcher, but there's very little I remember from that accident. Um, so it was just crazy because it was really only I think it was like 5 minutes into our trip. It was still in Berrien, and so you just never know. Like you really don't know what's gonna happen when you get in a car. So then I spent some time in the hospital. I think it was around 2 weeks. Had surgeries. Was put into, really was really was just in a bed. When I woke up, I remember seeing my family. My family was there. Her family was there, and they couldn't be in the hospital because of COVID had struck, so they had to be outside. Really, luckily, there was a window there so that I could see them through it, and that really meant a lot. I don't know how I would have been able to do it just being by myself. I mean, there's a video out there of me saying, really slurred speech and everything, but just how much I appreciated them being there. And my dad kept saying, he's not gonna leave until I'm out of there. So, that was just really encouraging. The nurses were heroes, man. I mean, these people just feels like they go to war every day, with just they see so much. And I was in really bad shape. Lucero, my wife, she really thought according to her, she thought I died, and so for me, I kind of have she was, obviously had injuries, physical injuries as well, but the mental trauma, is something that it's going to be hard for her to, move on from, or, she's never going to be able to forget it. And so for me, I feel really fortunate that I was in the position that I was in, because a lot of people said that, if the roles were reversed, the outcomes could have been a lot different. And so it's really fortunate, really, really fortunate that it was turned out the way it did. But yeah, after being discharged from the hospital, I went back home to Florida. Made that long drive. It was, really uncomfortable with the broken bones and whatnot to get there. But it's been a process. I go to therapy, different therapies throughout the week. See different specialists. And so there's damage that might be irreversible. I mean, some seem to think so, but honestly, the biggest struggle, physically, I'm actually, I'm positive about it, you know, but it's been a struggle mentally, and I've just really kind of had my ups and downs, and in those down moments, it's really hard to kind of trust in the pathway that God's laid before me. So many people said my story has been inspirational to them, and I'm grateful for that. But sometimes you feel as if, like I hear people say a lot, like, oh, you're one of the strongest people I know, all this kind of stuff, and I don't know, I don't really. There's so many times I feel weak, and it's a constant battle. Sometimes it's hard for me to get out of bed in the morning. You just you just want to sleep, and I don't know how much of that is just due to the trauma that I endured. But it's a process. It's a long journey, and there's a long way to go. But I've made good progress, and so I'm optimistic about it. It's something that was completely unexpected and really changed the course of my life. But the only option is to trust in God's plan, and
Mm.
that's an that's a choice you have to make every single day, and it's a challenge for me, but
Yeah.
it's that's really our only hope.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I gotta say, I'm so amazed that just hearing you say everything that is, like you're saying, very, very traumatic and very scary. And just the fact that you and your wife are okay, it's just, I'm just so thankful for that, and also just so blown away by that. I can't help but think that, God had his hand on you guys and everything, and really was looking out for you guys, because it's just incredible to see that you're able to share this story. And it's just so scary. I can't imagine, So I know, for those who are listening, I just want to say maybe we could keep you, Tim, and your wife in all of our prayers, because I know every day is, like you're saying, a day of its own. It has its challenges, and
Mhm.
there's so much that you're dealing with. And so I just hope that that we want to lift you up in prayer and everything too, just because I know that there is power in prayer. And it's just so crazy to hear that you went through that, and at such a young age too, because you said you're only 27, right? Like that's just really
Yeah,
crazy,
yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm just so glad that you and your wife are okay. So, and you are going to therapy now and everything, like physical therapy and stuff.
Yeah, physical therapy. I had to do occupational for a while. So doing speech therapy, seeing specialists on the regular. So it's a process. It's really become my number one priority at this point is just getting healthy. Just pushing hard.
Yeah.
And like I said, some days are much easier, come much easier than other days. This morning was just a drag, like how to drag myself up and go to therapy. And it was just so hard. And other days it's like I wake up and it's like, let's do this kind of
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah, yeah,
it's yeah, so it's just hard to keep up
yeah.
that consistent motivation.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to ask you then, for those days where like you don't feel like you have any motivation, and we all, everyone, to a certain extent, experiences that. What advice do you have? Like how do you have, on those days where you're just like, oh, I don't want to do anything today. What advice do you have to just kind of, I don't know, be patient with yourself to keep going? Or is it rest? Like, do you say, like, okay, like I am just going to take a step back and just relax today? Like, what advice do you have for those who are maybe feeling that way today?
Hmm. Right. No, it's something I struggle with just so much, and it's I think for a long time I've really relied on my own strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
To do the simple things like getting out of bed in the
Yeah.
morning, and or when it comes to basketball or weight training or any of these kind of things, it's like, it's you feel good because it's like your own self, doing all this. But, you realize, because you have those inconsistencies in your life for me personally,
Mm-hmm.
your only choice is to rely on the creator.
Mm-hmm.
And, I remember, again, every memory in the hospital is pretty vague. Um, but I remember just feeling so discouraged in the hospital, just, thinking like, God, if I just would have went out right there, there would be, it would be easy, if, it's such a small chance that I would come out of it. And, if I were to, unfortunately pass away in that instance, then that would be it for me. And so, you deal with that, those anxious thoughts and that
Mm-hmm.
depression.
Mm-hmm.
And, I remember just kind of having this overwhelming thought that the purpose of life is to glorify God. It's tough. It's tough because there's certain days where that just makes sense to me, and that's my drive, and that's the goal I want to get to is to lift up God's name, because that's really the reason I'm here. There's no other reason. But then there's those down days, and the down days are, as you know as serious as the good days. And so, it's a struggle. And a lot of that probably has to do just, with the head trauma and everything, but, it's you just feel so powerless, honestly. And so your really only choice is to rely on God, and I have a hard time, like I said, because I've been relying on myself for so long. And, just being able to surrender my life to God is something I really do struggle with. That's real. I mean, it's hard to say like this life is not mine anymore, it's yours. It's scary. It's really scary to do that. So it's that's where I'm at right now. Just being real, like I don't have I feel like I'm so out of answers. It's just it's just a process, and I'm just trying to fight that battle.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And like hearing you say all of that, and taking it one day at a time. And I think a lot of us can relate with what you're saying, and because there are days where we're like, we don't want to do anything. And hearing you say, to surrender your life to God, that's it can be hard, because you just want everything to be okay. And a lot of times, we can get upset with God, and and that's not necessarily bad, like I think we all have gone through that too, but remembering that, God is in control, and there is a reason why we're here, and there's a reason why, we are going through the things we're going through. And hearing you say, Tim, giving all the glory to God, like that's a daily practice of like, okay, like today, like I want to, you know, do whatever it is I'm going to do today, but the glory goes to you, God, or whatever comes my way, like I want to be ready to serve you in whatever way that may be, and so I think that's a great reminder and a great point that you've made, to not give up and to keep going. And yeah, so that's super powerful, everything you're saying. And so I just want to, commend you and everything, and just say like, it just, I think it's awesome, like that you are, doing the best that you're doing, and like you have your family and your friends, and hearing how your family was there for you during that difficult time and everything. That's just amazing to hear, and so I'm really happy for that for you too. But yeah, so I guess this kind of leads me into my next question, which is, for you personally, what does Jesus mean to you? And for those who are going through struggles, what word of encouragement can you share with us today, about spiritually speaking, whatever that may be, how to keep going, what hope, do we have in Jesus? What does Jesus mean to you?
When you asked me to be on this, I looked at that question, and that was definitely the hardest one for me,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it always just kind of fluctuates. When I'm feeling good, it's easy to just say, wow, I did something right, and it's you kind of just get proud, and then when
Mm-hmm.
you're feeling
Mm-hmm.
down, it's like you start to blame God, like why,
Mm-hmm.
why
Mm-hmm.
am I experiencing this?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, Jesus is our only hope. It's there's nothing else out there that we can truly, rely upon. It's very difficult, to rely on something that, is unseen. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, there's so many things that have happened in my life that, a lot of times I just want to, put on coincidence, like it's coincidence that I survived.
Mm-hmm.
It's a coincidence that my wife and I got married. But there, any of these things, but in reality, God's been working. Jesus has been working in the background, all this time. So for me, it's kind of going back to what I said earlier. It's that daily struggle. It's that daily surrender. And sometimes I just say to God, I say, God, you're gonna have to take my heart, because I'm either unable or unwilling to give it. And you just have to keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
I it's a constant struggle. And so I try to lean on other people to to encourage me and along those lines. Family, friends, my wife. But it's difficult. And I'm still, even though I've been, kind of not debilitated, but banged up from this thing. It's still like, you know, I can do it kind of thing. But Jesus, he came here in his own free will, and lived a life of service, and that's what he did. I mean, he brought glory to his father's name, to God's name. You know, my dad always says, when preaching a sermon, use words and necessary. So meaning that, a sermon is if a sermon can just be the way you treat and interact with other people. It doesn't necessarily mean the word, how eloquent the words, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
how eloquent you can put together words, And so, I really try in my life to look at the inequity in the world, the things that, for lack of a better term, the haves and have nots, and try to figure out, how we can solve some of these problems. I mean, God got on or Jesus, when he was on earth, he stooped down to the lowest levels. I mean, he wasn't earthwise. I mean, he wasn't anything special. He was the son of a carpenter, and somehow, he was able to rise above that, and really just be an example for the rest of us. And he wasn't afraid to speak out against injustice. He wasn't afraid to get to to be seen with some of the people that were looked down upon. I mean, he was it was just about bringing glory to his father's name. And so, that's really what, the goal for me is just to always seek mercy, seek justice, seek
Mhm.
equity for all people, because
Mm.
that's what Jesus would want. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean I don't have those internal struggles every day of the kind of that belief factor, that conviction factor.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it's there. It's our only hope, Rachel. And so that's
Mhm.
that's what I
Mhm.
have to lean on every day.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing all of that. It's really powerful. And I love how you mentioned, about, who Jesus is and who he was when he was here on this earth. Like you were saying, like he spent time with anyone and everyone, and especially with those, like you said, who maybe other people didn't care about or they looked down upon.
Mm,
And I think that's such a good reminder for us to, not, get in our own heads to the point where like it's all about us, but, to remember, those around us and to, like you're talking about, standing up for those who are oppressed or for the injustice or all these different things, and so, remembering who Jesus is and who he was. And I can't help but think of the verse in the Bible where Jesus talks about giving us rest, coming to Him and He will give us rest,
mm,
because we, like you're saying, surrendering to God and everything, and also remembering that we can come to Him anytime, any place, wherever we are, alone or with people, and say, God, like I need you right now. I need your rest. Like I need you, less of me, more of you. Like I need you, God.
mm,
Like and just kind of like giving up ourselves, and really
mm,
like drawing close to him, and he will meet us where we are too, because a lot of times we think, oh, we have to do this and all these different things to get close to God, and maybe if we give to this charity or volunteer at that, but really
right.
we just need to just stop and just like, even just like stop for a minute and say, okay, God, like, I just want to hear you. I want to listen to you. I want to hear your voice. I need you. I need your rest. Because he will give us that peace and that rest. Because it's just like you're saying, it's a daily struggle. It's a daily surrender to God and remembering. And I think, Tim, for me, a lot of it comes down to trying to open up my Bible and really trying to, whether that's the Bible app or, my actual Bible,
Mm, right.
because it it puts me in that state of mind where I can refocus, like where you're just like, okay, like this isn't about me. Like this is about God, like, I'm here on this earth. Like, I don't know how much time I have here, like, I don't, and so, like, remembering that, like, when you open the Bible and you read about Jesus and who he is, um, it's a good way to refocus and to remember what everything's all about, and so, yeah, so I just really appreciate you sharing all of that, Tim. I think that's really, really powerful. So thank you for sharing that. So you mentioned you are working on something, you're creating something, and I believe that is called One Planet Tours. Am I right? Or is that I hope
No,
that's
you
right.
got it. You're right.
Okay, cool,
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So I kind of want to hear you, share about that, because I think a lot of people are very interested in what you're working on, and maybe how we can be a part of that. So tell us about that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's, talking about, inequity, coming, from here, from the United States, from Canada, Europe, any of these more developed countries, it's easy for us to kind of look in the developing world, and kind of have a um, putting people down for either things like poaching or deforestation or
Mm,
destructive practices that maybe see plastic flowing into the ocean or any of these types of
mm,
things. And so with with individuals that live in the developing world, like Madagascar, for instance, um, they need alternative. If you want them to stop having the destructive practices to the rainforest, to oceans, um, to the spiny forest. There's so many different environments in Madagascar. It's just beautiful. Um, but if you want them to stop having these destructive practices, then you have to provide alternatives. Because at the end of the
mm,
day, people are just trying to put food on the table, trying to feed their family, trying to survive.
mm,
Um, and so, as a what we do as a tour company is we invest in these marginalized communities. So, what One Planet Tours is we put on a tour package just like any other tour package. I mean, it's we really try to gear it towards millennials, make it really
mhm,
um, it's really fun, really exciting,
mm, mhm,
because Madagascar is just a place that, it sticks to you. I mean, it stuck to me. I
mhm,
haven't been
mhm,
there in 3 years, but I can just never forget it. I'm always listening to the music, always
mm.
always trying to keep up with the news and everything.
That's so cool.
Um, but yeah, but basically, we're a young team. And the goal is obviously to stay in business for the foreseeable future. And if there's a lot of um, you know degrading of the environment, whether it be the forests or the ocean, it really limits the things that tourists can come and see, can come and observe and enjoy and appreciate. So how do we make sure that that there's lemurs, that there's chameleons, that there's any of these animals and environments that people long to see? We really believe that we have to invest in these local marginalized communities. And the best way through some of the research that we've done is education. So one of the things I worked on in Madagascar, talking about the sea cucumber farming.
Mm, mhm,
When it was something that people went out and they would dive, scuba dive basically, to get these sea cucumbers. And the sea cucumbers is like a is a just to explain it, it's an
mhm,
invertebrate.
mm,
Um,
mhm,
and they sift through the sand and kind of basically clean the ocean. And
mm,
essentially, these were fished to almost extinction in that local part of Madagascar. And so, but there is a really big market for it over in Asia. And so this Blue Ventures came in and they basically said, this is an alternative. This is another option. So you don't have to always, because these sea cucumbers are running out. There's nothing left.
mm,
So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do after those are all gone? And so this becomes a very big issue because there really isn't going to be anything for the next generation. And so that's when they came up with the farming technique, really, increased the capacity, educated the local community, increased their capacity to do the aquaculture, and we're able to connect them to that foreign market, which increased the revenue that they were able to bring in. And so it kind of alleviated the pressure that they had to have on the environment through fishing practices that weren't really sustainable. And so now there's a lot more hope, in a future that will be sustainable for that next generation. And so we're looking with One Planet Tours, to really take that model and invest in education for youth. I was talking to one researcher, and he looked at a certain species of lemur, and as its territory and its environment started getting degraded, they looked for how could they mitigate that risk, how could they prevent that from happening, and the greatest way to do that was through education, and so if we can educate these communities about why it's important to conserve their environment, but most importantly, to find an alternative, whether that be, the like we talked about earlier,
Mhm.
the sea cucumber farming,
Mhm.
or making upholstery. I mean, you name it, any of these
Mhm.
types
Mhm.
of activities. I mean, we want to do that, and so we're not actually looking to do the programming itself. We're really trying to be that connector, to be that market, to connect the dots, to connect people from the developed world into the developing world.
Mhm.
And we look to partner with local nonprofits that are on the ground. We see them as the experts. They already know how, what will most likely benefit that local community.
Mm, mhm.
A lot of these, based in Madagascar, for instance, a lot of these nonprofits do have that, kind of dual approach. By helping people, we can help the environment, and when you help the environment, it helps people. So it really goes back and forth. But tourism is a means, a really sustainable means to get revenue to come into the country, and we want to make sure that revenue goes towards people, who really maintain these resources, to incentivize people to maintain basically their backyards, right? I mean,
Mm,
making sure
mhm.
that their environment is healthy and sustainable. And so, if you want to definitely check out what we're doing, we were well on our way to kind of getting things started back in May. I was actually supposed to travel out to Madagascar to kind of kick things off and get started. Work with tour operators to put together itineraries, get partnerships with nonprofits on the ground. But obviously, with COVID and the accident,
Mhm.
it's kind of put on hold.
Mhm.
Um, but we have a great team. Several professionals. Sometimes sometimes I feel like I'm in over my head with all this amazing group of people we have. But the fact that they've invested so much time into it, really encourages me that it is an idea that will bear fruits down the line. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a dream of mine. And that's why I was up in Michigan to begin with.
Mhm.
Kind of came back and worked with my professor, worked with my friend Fainu, who's also from Madagascar, and just collaborated on different ideas how to make this possible. So again, kind of in summary, just connecting the dots, connecting the market, bringing in revenue, and making sure that revenue is being directed towards the communities that really need it. A
Mhm.
lot of times people say the whole teach a man how to fish analogy. Instead of giving him a fish, teach him how to fish. Well, sometimes people just need you to kind of get out of the get out of the way, and so
Mhm.
definitely we want to, people know how to fish, they know
Mhm.
how to do it, but they also
Mhm.
need to, they don't have time to necessarily look, or the
Mhm.
resources to look at the scientific data that shows these resources are dwindling, and if but with no other options, to put food on the table, it's a really bleak outcomes ahead. So it's really, we're at the critical point of making sure that we can kind of, redirect that into more sustainable practices. And
Mhm.
it's going to be a challenge, but it's our goal, and it's our mission to do so.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. Honestly, I'm very excited hearing everything that you're talking about. And I feel like a couple things. It's very impressive, and it's also, I feel like, a very admirable work to be in. And the fact that you and the people you're working with have started this One Planet Tours, and you're thinking of people who could use this, resource, I guess, if you will, and just hearing you talk about all of that, I think is really incredible. So for those who are listening, definitely, reach out to Tim if you want, Tim, or I don't know if you guys have a website. Did you mention a website?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually oneplanetours.org. So
Okay.
um,
Perfect.
you can go on there, read about our mission, check
Yeah.
out our team members. We have a video up there. And so haven't yet put together the trip itineraries. We were well on our way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but now we're just with the accident and
Hmm.
everything, just trying to kind of
Hmm.
step back and make sure that we're still on the right track to make this thing
Hmm.
everything that we want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that, it will all come together, I'm sure everything will, work out the way it's supposed to. So I think that's really awesome. So yeah, I know I'm definitely gonna be looking at the website myself, and I'm gonna put that in the show notes for everyone listening. So if you're listening to
Sweet.
this, you can just look in the notes here at the show and just kind of see where you can go directly to the website. So yeah, awesome. Thanks, Tim, for sharing that. That's really great that you're doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So, is there, any social media you want anyone to follow you at or anything like that? I want to give you a chance to plug your, social media if you want.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have social media with the One Planet Tours, so definitely check that out. I think Instagram, somebody else had the account, so we had to do like an underscore, so it's One Planet underscore Tours. You can obviously follow me on Facebook, Tim McGuire, and then my Instagram is confusing. It's T underscore I underscore M underscore BO, Timbo, but with a lot of
There you
underscores.
go.
So,
Okay.
um,
Not too bad. It's only a few.
and yeah, it's a lot of underscores. I made it a while ago. But then LinkedIn as well. I mean, I love to connect on LinkedIn, kind of collaborate, professionally. I think that's,
Mhm.
kind of going back to an earlier conversation. That's a really useful tool to network and collaborate, and kind of follow up with people and how they're doing career wise. But yeah, as much as you can, check out the website, subscribe to the mailing list. And as updates come out, we'll definitely let the masses know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome. Yay. Well, thanks for sharing all your social media and everything you've shared on the podcast today. Before we wrap this up, I want to give you a chance if there's any, last thoughts you want to share with the listeners, anything that's on your mind or anything. Yeah, I just want to give you the floor if there's anything else you want to share.
really just going again. We just got to keep going. We got to keep waking up at every morning and pushing forward. It can be really really challenging. It always is for me. Some days are easier than others, but we have to do this for not just ourselves but for other people, because we have to believe that God's going to put us in a situation that is going to glorify his name and is going to help people and bring justice and equity to the planet. We gotta keep moving forward in that, and that's why we named it One Planet Tours, because we're all in this together. I think nothing illustrates that more than the pandemic that we're in. That we're all so interconnected, and as we impact people, halfway across the world, as we work towards, trying to mitigate, each other's, environmental destruction or carbon footprint or any of these kind of things. We're really, helping ourselves, and so it's a process. It's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to get down. But we have to choose. We have the purpose in our lives to get up when that alarm rings in the morning. And like you said, Rachel, I mean, like getting into God's word, that's a challenge. That's a challenge for
Mhm.
me to be honest. But it's something I have to just keep working at, and in the down days especially.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really appreciate you having me on to kind of discuss the different happenings in my life, and yeah, it's been really cool to catch up.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you so much, Tim. I appreciate everything you've just said and throughout this episode as well. And I'm really excited for what you're doing with One Planet Tours. I think that's really amazing. It's always cool to see, um, you know, as life progresses, where people, go, what they do. And so seeing you, creating this platform, I think that's really awesome. So keep it up and thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate you being on the show, Tim.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. All right, guys, this is the end of another episode. Be sure to, go follow Tim on his social media, check out his website, One Planet Tours, and I will put all that information in the show notes as well. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast, and thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the Preacher Girl podcast. Be sure to subscribe and rate this show on Apple Podcasts. That will help us show up on the board and grow as a community. All right, guys, God loves you, and I'm cheering for you. Talk to you next time. Bye.